Hi there. Isn't it interesting how there's so many, isn't it interesting? Really interesting, isn't it? Isn't it interesting how there's so many articles and news reports and documentaries on the Madeleine McCann case going on for many, many years? Even recently in what the hell was that? Like an orb. Even recently in the Scum newspaper, they did mention that they'd made a new documentary showing that Christian Bruckner is the abductor, that he's this evil monster pinning everything on that one person. Yet as soon as I come along with some information of consequence, something that's going to change the narrative, something that's going to give answers, then I get completely blanked, I get completely ignored. It's a conspiracy of silence. It sounds a bit of a cliche, but actually it really is. It actually is. From the UK police, Operation Grange, Scotland Yard, all the UK newspapers, most people that I've spoken to have not responded. Okay, they're probably thinking, oh, it's just another Madeleine McCann case theory. But it's not. It's actually a witness testimony, and it's something that has affected me because it's something that's happened to me. Okay. Now I'm going to expose this trafficking ring. Trafficking what? Okay, trafficking using children to cover up a crime. Trafficking using people to cover up a crime, such as in my witness testimony where I mentioned that a man fed a head or a skull to a dog on May the 4th in an apartment in Luz, near the Ocean Club, near the church. This happened to me. But did Operation Grange ask me one single question? No. Did Scotland Yard ask me any questions? No. Okay. When I sent finally all the information to Portimao Police on May the 26th of this year, then there was, all in the news, all of a sudden, it was showing that there has now been a search and guns were found. I mentioned in my my witness testimony that I was with these two men who were carrying guns. See previous video, please. Okay. So yeah, conspiracy of silence, and this is a whole cover-up. This is including the usage of Operation Grange to do this as a major operation, a massive thing. They're constantly covering up what happened. That's the whole point, that's the whole job. It's not to find a missing child. Okay. And they're doing that because it looks like it's a very dangerous trafficking ring. Now let's link things together. So the man that fed the head to the dog, and it actually looked like a head that had been skinned. And I feel that they chose this moment because I was coming down off cocaine, incidentally, that he offered to me, and I'm like, yeah, wow, okay, which I don't usually take, but Lagos is actually a party place. It's not unusual for people to go off, take drugs and have sex and hang out. It's usual there. Lagos and Luz and many places along the Algarve, that's what it's about. That's why people are there, but it's something I did, and I don't even know why I decided to go along with this guy on that particular night on May the 3rd, witnessing him taking a brick of cocaine from scrubland. Incidentally, it looks like the scrubland that the police were recently searching in. Okay. Now, so we've got this thing, we've got this linking with the guy from the EFITs. His brother is the other guy from the EFITs, the one on the right. It is not the same person. They do not look the same, okay? The two suspects, they're two men. They're not one. Scotland Yard is saying that this is one person. How can anybody possibly identify these two photo fits when they look like two completely different people? You know, in your mind, you're not going to be registering that, hey, maybe he's got two heads, you know? It doesn't make sense, Scotland Yard. So you should have issued just one, and then you would have found your person quicker. But I'm feeling that they did this as a kind of a threat, because they seem to be operating on this kind of level of threat all along, okay? And that goes very deeply all along through this, okay? Now, in terms of the linking of this to Christian Bruckner, okay, he's not operating alone. I do not feel he's operating alone. It's part of this trafficking ring. So the dog that I witnessed that was eating a head or a skull, there was a dead dog found on Christian Bruckner's property, buried on top of some USB sticks. The dead dog's name is Charlie. Charlie, okay, another name for cocaine. And the property cost around $20,000 in 2008, so a year after the disappearance, and that is more or less the price of a brick of cocaine, I believe. Okay. Now, so that's linking a lot of things there. That's a lot of information there. You can find Julia, I've mentioned this before, on AP News, and you can compare his face. It's on my other video, his and my article, by the way, not being spammy, but it's just a matter of fact that I've written it. Okay. So yeah, you can compare the characteristics of Julio with the Evit. Okay, you can do that with all the evidence. If you look at all the evidence, you'll see that I don't have to convince you of the truth, because you'll see it for yourself with your very own eyes. So what is it that I'm trying to say to you? Okay. Why was I ignored by Operation Grange? Why, since I gave my witness statement to Operation Grange in August 2024, there have been interviews saying new witness, okay, but not really giving any new information, giving old information? Why also have I been completely blanked by absolutely everybody in the media? And it's really annoying when you see all this speculation going on. People like Matthew Steeple sitting there in his garden with his gin and tonic, giving his opinion on this case. And I'm thinking, but were you actually there? Did you actually listen to my witness statement? You know, did you actually look at any of the evidence, or are you part of this cover-up? Okay, but not just pinpointing Matthew Steeples. It's basically, this Sonia Poulton from Sky News going, oh, it's a search, isn't it a farce? And it's like, well, hang on a minute, you and all the media have been looking for this child for 18 years. You're the ones that keep bringing it up. And now as soon as there's a search, it's suddenly a farce, and they're suddenly not going to find anything. Well, they did find something. They found some guns, and I'm sure you find that completely inconsequential, and they're just like rusty old guns that they found. But actually, if it's a trafficking ring, it is very, very important. And also, incidentally, have any of these journalists, these reporters, these experts, have any of them actually lived in Portugal? I lived in Portugal for years, okay? I go back and forth to Portugal. Okay, I lived in the Algarve for years. I lived in Lagos. Okay, I had an apartment. I worked in Lagos. Yeah, I worked as a cleaner on a campsite in Lagos. I lived in a squat in Lagos. Okay. I know this place. I know what it's like to live there. It's not like the UK. It's not, you can't compare it to anything that you imagine in the UK, because it isn't. It's a completely different culture. Generally, they don't have tapas. Tapas is a Spanish thing as well, so I don't know where they got that from. I don't know why they're saying tapas bar. Maybe it's something specific that the Ocean Club had set up for tourists, but tapas isn't a Portuguese thing. They have something similar, because I looked it up. They have something similar, but it's not called tapas. That's Spanish. So a completely and utterly different culture. And, you know, the Ocean Club, what's going on there? I mean, since this child was, disappeared, okay? Since this child disappeared, then the Ocean Club was still running, and people were still going, and it was actually, up until quite recently, it looked to be still quite successful. Okay, so exactly why did the Ocean Club continue as if nothing untoward had happened on the premises? Why are the McCanns not suing the Ocean Club? You know, why are they not saying, oh, it's your fault because we left your child in the room and our child was had disappeared? Because there's something going on there that they're not looking into, that they should look into, okay? So I'm exposing this whole thing, okay? This isn't a joke to me. This is not a joke, and I really don't care what people actually say or comment. I find it amusing or interesting or annoying, but you know, I don't care, because I have to get this out. I'm exposing this, and it's something where you feel, you know, when you have to stand up for something you believe in strongly, then you just have to do it anyway, even if it's against, you know, what you usually do, what you usually feel, because I'm not really into doing these kinds of videos, you know. I don't have YouTube looks, I don't have YouTube teeth, is what I'm trying to say. I don't have the teeth for YouTube, okay. But anyway, I have to do this, and I'm just saying, I'm exposing this trafficking ring. I'm getting this out there because most of the stories that I'm reading, that I'm seeing, are like going down a specific narrative. Most of it now is speculation, and none of it's about witness statements. They're even trying to diss the witnesses. Any witnesses, they're saying that, you know, they're unreliable. But any witness in this case is actually better than none. And even though they can say, oh yeah, but she's an unreliable witness, you know, she was with this guy, you know, they were taking cocaine, what does she know? You know, what does she know? And it's like, well, actually, I know a lot because I'm exposing you right now, okay? So let's just wait and see what happens with this search. Any of the results, if the bones of the clothes are of any consequence. But I do actually feel that is a breakthrough, and I'm going to just see what happens, and then I'm going to just see what my next personal step is about this, to keep it out there, to keep my story out there. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.